Hello, I'm Yuri Fedorov. I write screenplays for fun, both in Danish and English, and I love to review screenplays. Mostly like if someone has written their own screenplay and they want to get some feedback on it. I really like to review the screenplays. I also like to think about what it means to create a good and well functioning screenplay and how you can create a good screenplay. And I like to watch a lot of videos about it, watch a lot of movies and see how they're made and how the characters talk and stuff like that. So I wanted to make this video about The Social Network and the very first scene of the movie. It's a fast-paced movie with a lot of dialogue because it's written by Aaron Sorkin. He's a theater person, so he likes dialogue and not that much action and stuff around the characters as such. There's always a lot of energy and there's always a lot of stuff going on. So people are moving, people are smiling on the right places, and people are walking in their environment. So we don't just see the dialogue, we also see people unfolding their own personality. That's very, very important. Now, in a lot of beginner or amateur screenplays, I see a lot of common mistake. I see the same mistakes again and again and again and again, and you can avoid a lot of these mistakes if you just look at how a functioning dialogue is written and what it says. So this will be the first scene. It's this. We are up to page 9. I think it takes up 7 minutes in the movie because it's a very fast-paced movie. So this screenplay is about 160 pages long, but the movie is only 2 hours long. And as one page is usually 1 minute, you can see that when they made the movie, they really compressed it and they really made it fast-paced. So there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. There's a very, very rapid pace to this movie, but as the characters are not in a fight, they're not in action scenes, so we can actually see what's going on and we can follow what's happening to that character and this character because we're just in their environment. We don't need to see a fight and who hits what. And with this scene you have probably one of the best starts to a movie of all time. This is an amazing writing on these 9 pages. And in the movie it's also very well presented. Of course, David Fincher, he put a lot of music into the background, so we don't really hear everything they say. And there's also a lot of other scenes where you have really high music, so you can't really hear everything they say, but you still understand what they are saying. You still understand what's going on. For example, if someone is breaking up with someone, you can see it in how they react and how they move about in the scene. So we really don't need the dialogue, but the dialogue is also amazing and it's giving you a lot of extra details. So I will try to just talk about all these lines here and why they work in this movie and what you can learn from them. So usually I see a lot of, for example, beginners, they will write more than 4 lines of dialogue, and if it's more than 4 lines, this for example, it's a talk, right? Because it's 4 lines, so it's more as a point or a talk and not as much dialogue. Dialogue is like ping-ponging back and forth, so it's like short sentencing and searching for information or giving people information. For example, if Mark wanted to date Erica, if they didn't already date, then he would give her a short sentence and get a short sentence back, so they would ping-pong back and forth. In this scene we see Mark Wahlberg, at least the fictional version of him that's much more mean and cruel, talk to a fictional person, Erica, that breaks up with him. And we also see why they break up, and while they talk about all the stuff about what their wants and needs are and what will happen in the movie, I don't know what my point was, but yeah, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of stuff going on behind what they're saying, and they're also saying stuff directly. Okay, let's just go over it scene for scene. First, Mark says there are more people with genius IQs living in China than people in the United States. This is of course completely wrong. I'm a psychologist and I really like to study IQ and intelligence, so I know a lot about this. This is doesn't seem right to me. I actually didn't look it up, but it seems completely wrong. Genius, it's not really a clear defined term, but it should be very high IQ, and that would be, even in China, there wouldn't be a ton of people with genius IQs. There'll be a lot of people, but not that many. So this is wrong. The first statement is wrong, but he's arrogant. He's just stating it right away, and we also see his intelligence, because he's talking about intelligence. He's talking about China, so we know he knows, likes to read about other countries. We know he likes to read about psychology, even though he doesn't study psychology. We also know that he's maybe he's arrogant because he thinks a lot about IQ and how it is to be clever and where people are clever. But why I think this line is really, really good is because Mark Zuckerberg, of course, has a huge problem today in bringing Facebook to China, because all the social networks in China and all sites and stuff like that, not all sites, but all social networks at least, are run from their own computers, the government computers. So they have your data. So when you, for example, write a personal message to another person in China, the government has the data right away. So all the servers are in China and the government owns the servers. So therefore Mark, of course, cannot come into China with Facebook. And that's also why Google doesn't work in China and stuff like that, because firstly, they don't want you to search online for free information. There's a lot of information they don't want to give to the people. There's a lot of stuff you cannot talk about in China, or you will be imprisoned. So I think this is a very good line, because it also tells you that he kind of doesn't understand China. For example, he thinks there's a lot of geniuses, more than 300 million geniuses in China. That's of course completely wrong, but I think it's a good illustration of he kind of misses the mark. Even though his girlfriend today is Chinese, he completely misses the mark in China, because he thinks there's a market for Facebook there, and that's of course completely impossible. So he won't really reach the Chinese market, and that's billions and billions of dollars. That will be a huge amount of money for Facebook. That's incredible amount of money, but of course that's not possible. So we kind of see this, I see it at least as a dig at him also, that hey Mark, you failed, you didn't reach China. Of course Erica responds with it is not true, and Mark responds with it is. So again we see he's not really listening to her. He's again responding right away with this is, because he's arrogant. So here we need the lines to always convey, to always progress the plot, and they clearly progress the plot. So here we see that all these lines work because they all progress the plot and reveal character. And you can only reveal character if you're using it to progress the plot later on or in the scene. So this is functioning dialogue, and then she's asking about it, and he kind of doesn't really respond to it. So I think this is functioning because we see how they interact as a couple, as boyfriend and girlfriend. They're also 19. And then Mark wants to distinguish himself from a population where everyone has top marks on their grades. And she thinks they're still talking about China. And now I wasn't talking about China anymore. I was talking about me. And he was always talking about him. Even at the first sentence when he was mentioning China, he was actually talking about himself, because that's what characters do in movies. They only talk about their own needs and their own wants. And if they are, for example, if Mark was saying, I want to make a site so that I can be rich and famous, that would be too on the nose, and that will also be too heavy exposition. So they kind of need to have some motivations that will make them react, but they also need to be natural. So everything they say because they want to achieve something, but they also don't really know who they are, who the people around them are. So they can always only say stuff like, for example, I want I have these feelings or I have these emotions, and maybe even not that, just reacting on the emotions. I feel I want this, I want the beer, or I want, I don't know, something else. And now we can see she's mentioned, you got top grades on this SAT, and she says yes. He just responds yes, as okay, of course I got top marks because I'm a genius. And he could sing with a cappella group to distinguish himself from other people that are just as smart as him. As he says, there's too many geniuses in the world, so you need to be extra special. That's so the whole discussion is about one thing, but there's a lot of small things here too, because Erica is stuck on on his sentences that he mentioned a while back. So for example, when she talks about China, he already moved on. When she talks about SAT, he already moved on. So he's too clever for her in this script. As we see, he's so damn clever that she has no chance of keeping up with his intelligence. But also the first line reveals that he's actually even though he's clever, he's also very, very arrogant. So he always thinks he's right because he's so damn clever. And now they have also a complication in the relationship because she has a hard time changing his mind because he knows she is not even half as smart as he is. But she still wants to be in his relationship and his girlfriend, which is his intelligence and his kind of autistic view on the world complicates a bit. And then again, she's talking about the SAT test, and he's so far ahead of her in his logical and his thinking. She's kind of trying to keep up with him, but again, he's not making small talk. He's just going for it. He's very extremely focused, and I think that's kind of a bad trait for him in this scene, because even though it makes him a very huge asset for the private market and capitalistic world, it also makes her not really on his level. And now you can get into the final, and he's responding to that. So now we see that she's really trying to catch up, because she's good at talking with human beings and he's not that good at it. So she's always trying to catch up with him emotionally. And now she's saying that it's okay to fail. So if you don't sing in a cappella group, that's okay. It's okay to fail. As I said before, they're always conveying emotions, right? They're always conveying their own personality, because that's the only thing that can drive a plot along, the personality of the characters. But they cannot just say, Mark, I find you irritating, or Mark cannot say, Erica, you are so stupid. So we still get these points, and you will see how we get them, but it cannot be direct, because people are really stupid. They don't understand themselves, they don't understand people around them, but they're still conveying the same stuff. Now she likes guys who row crew, and why is she saying this in this movie? There are so many details and elements to it that I cannot explain it all. It will take too long, but I'll try to explain most of it. With this crew, that's because Sorkin and Fincher, they wrote the script. They know that this is a huge detail in the movie. There's a row crew, and Mark is jealous of this row crew. So now she's saying she likes guys who row, and he says, well, I cannot do that. Later in the movie, he will meet two rowers who will go to the Olympics, and they will ask him to make a side for them. And because he always wants the revenge in this movie, right? So he always wants to feel on top. So as he said at the beginning, on page 1, he said that he wants something extra. He wants to be seen as something extra. And now these two rowers, they ask him to make a side for them, and he kind of ignores them. And then when they tell him that they are rowers, they are in a row crew, he right away says, goes with them and tries to help them out. In reality, he just wants to seek revenge. So because Erica says she likes guys who row and he cannot row, he seeks revenge. So we always see that his character is always driving the plot along. So even though maybe in real life it kind of happened by random coincidence, this first 7 or 9 minutes scene in the movie is amazing because it illustrates his character. So now we know that this Mark, he doesn't really like people who row because they can do something he cannot do. So they are already special. They are extremely clever, but they can also row. And he cannot, he's just a nerd. So now he kinda, well, I cannot do that. So he's beaten, Erica's just beaten him because she said this line. This is what the line is for. She's just saying stuff to be a human being, but in actuality, that's an attack on him. Yes, it means I got nothing wrong on the test. Now he's going back, right, to her question, like 1 minute before, because she is hitting him deep. Now he feels beaten, he feels weak, he feels stupid, because she said she liked these kind of guys, and he's now responding to her other question, because that could make him feel good about himself again. I'm trying right now. Actually, I don't understand what this means. Have you ever tried? I'm trying right now. To be special? I don't know. It's still cool because there's a lot of. Not all lines needs to be completely obvious, even to me. But they're still cool. So they kind of. I don't know what they're talking about, but they are human beings, and sometimes they say stuff that I will not understand because I'm just a viewer. But I still need to see it as something natural and something exciting. And for have you ever tried? I'm trying right now. It's really exciting for me actually, because now I'm trying to guess what they are talking about, and now I'll also see some proactive behavior, right? Trying proactive behavior in characters is extremely important. To row crew. Oh, okay. He's responding to it here. He's trying to get to the final club, so he's thinking about stuff that she's not thinking about. Again, autistic kind of PC trick personality. At least movie PC personality, computer person. No, she's delusional. Now he's really mad. He was already mad there, but now she's bringing it up again. And he didn't tell her to shut up. He just tried to talk about other stuff to ignore her statement, but now she's bringing it up again. So now he's mad because he feels like she's attacking him. Also the Capella stuff, it will also be part. There will be a Capella scene, and also on Vent a $25 PC. That's exactly what he will do, right? He will not row crew, but he will invent something. And now she's saying that she can't keep up with him, and he's saying, have you seen guys who row crew? Oops. No. She likes big guys that row crew, just the image of it. And she says, again, Mark is beaten because he wants to be special, right? He wants to be something more, because everyone around him is already super intelligent. So him being super intelligent is not enough. And he wants to impress girls, he wants to impress people. But there's something else too. We'll probably bring it up later. He wants to get into clubs. That's very important for him. Final clubs. And now she's talking about China. She's just trying to find out who he is emotionally. So she's trying to connect to him, to talk about the stuff he wants to talk about, but she cannot keep up. And he is now talking about final clubs. And again, she's not which one. And now which Roosevelt. So he misunderstood her question. Again, they are not. We can really see that they're not talking about the same stuff again. And he's misunderstanding her. She's misunderstanding him. Oh, did they really pick up girls with a bus? You can see why it's so important to get in. We will also see a scene of this girl getting picking up and undressing and kissing each other in front of these guys that are picking them up in the bus to impress them, because they're special, because they're in these clubs, you know, unique clubs. Facebook. Now Mark says that is why it's important to get in. Which one is the easiest to get into? And again, now we see she's really misunderstanding who he is. Actually, these two guys they are not dating. I mean, that's here they are dating in this movie, but I don't know how the hell they found each other and how they started dating, because it makes no sense. They're not talking about the same stuff, and they are really irritated at each other all the time. So it's kind of like an old marriage couple that have been married for, I don't know, 20 years and hate each other, stuff like that. I don't even know what they have in common. Nothing really, nothing. And now Mark is feeling hurt because which club is the easiest to get into. So maybe he's kind of weird and he kind of knows it. And now she's asking him which club is the easiest to get into, and he wants to be special, talking about being genius and stuff like that. So now he's offended. Eduardo is very rich. What is this? There's a lot of small things. Eduardo is a billionaire today because he was part of co-founder of Facebook. He lives in Asia today. He has actually you have to pay American taxes even if you live outside America. So if you earn something, you need to pay America taxes. But because he has rescinded his citizenship, so he's not an American anymore. He just said, I don't want to be an American. So now he doesn't have to pay taxes to USA. So that's good for him, but a lot of Americans really dislike him right now. Also, of course, you have to pay taxes because you're under protection by the US state, no matter where you live. So for example, if you live in, let's say you move to Afghanistan or Somalia and something happens to you, then the American army will help you out because you pay taxes, so you're kind of a US citizen. And that's extremely expensive. So you're paying taxes, but you get something in return. But yeah, that's not what this is about. This is about Eduardo being rich and not getting into the club. In the movie, he will nearly get into the Phoenix Club, but Mark Zuckerberg will completely ruin it for him. But he will still use the names Eduardo has gotten on the mailing list from the Phoenix Club. So Mark will use the names, and that's good for Mark, for Facebook, because now he can share Facebook links. But also we see here that Eduardo is rich, and even him being rich won't get him into the club. And Eduardo will also be the one who is sponsoring Facebook, so giving money so they can run the servers and stuff like that. So we get a lot of information here, but it feels natural to the flow and progress of the plot and dialogue lines. So we get information about Eduardo, my friend, his only friend. Eduardo is his friend, he's rich, and he won't make it into a club. So we get a lot of, we now know a ton of information. We know that Mark doesn't really want Eduardo to make it into the club because he wants to be special and more than his friend. But his friend is rich and he's also his friend. There's a lot of information here. He can read weather and predict the price of heating oil. This is also an interesting line because it tells us that Eduardo is extremely intelligent. He's predicting weather, he's doing complicated calculations. So Eduardo can also play a role in developing the ideas and developing Facebook. And now Mark is offended because she's asking which one is the easiest to get into. This is good. Conflict is extremely important in dialogue. Conflict, it's extremely important because Mark needs to be this way and Erica needs to be another way. And even if they, let's say they're real characters in reality, they're real life persons, in a movie you need to make them more extreme. So for example, if Mark is very clever and Erica is focused on social matters and not the super intelligent stuff, then that creates a conflict, and that's very good for a script. So always create the different kind of characters that they can create a conflict because they want different things from life. You're obsessed with finals clubs. Yeah, finals clubs, OCD, that's amazing line. You don't care if the effects includes blindness. Again, Mark is blind to social matters, right? So he's blindness, and at the end of the movie he loses his best friend. So again, he's blind to something, and this is not a premonition, but it's a premonition in a way because she's already knowing that he has these bad traits and they will affect him negatively. And this is what she tells him, that you have so much obsession about finals clubs, ergo Facebook, that you have final clubs OCD. Again, being part of a club, you have OCD of being part of a club, being part of a group. That's why he creates Facebook in the movie. So he has the motivation to create Facebook. But you also have a blindness. That's a perfect premonition of everything that will happen to him. And she already knows it. She's telling him, from what we have seen in the first 4 minutes of the movie, we have seen that she is correct in this premonition. So we already know this will happen, and we're already excited about it. Like, oh yeah, he will fail. That will be exciting. Final clubs, not finals clubs. Okay. And again, he's correcting her because again, he wants to be smart. He wants to be something more, right? He wants to be more than the people around him. And he just feels he's motivated and not obsessed, but she disagrees. Yes, there is a difference. I need to do something substantial to get the attention of the clubs. Mark does do something substantial, but he doesn't get into the clubs, and that's why he has the motivation to create Facebook. That's very important in the movies, to have, you always have a motivation for what people do, and the natural for motivation. So everything they do comes from a natural inner motivation to do and say stuff, and still also need to be entertaining and always need to drive the plot along. So he's saying he needs to do something substantial, and he will do something substantial, but he won't get into the club. But who will get into the club? Eduardo. He will nearly get into the club because he's now Mark's friend, and Mark is doing something great. So Eduardo nearly get into a final club, but Mark's kind of, at least maybe it's Mark who kind of breaks his progress by spreading rumors around about him. They're exclusive and fun, and they lead to a better life. Exclusive. Facebook will be exclusive. So again, we see the motivation for Facebook is that it's exclusive, and even when you're on Facebook, it's still exclusive because you can get popular friends and get into the popular groups, right? Like in school. So that's what Mark is talking about, being part of a group, being something important and being looked up to. But now it's also final clubs. Talking again about presidents getting into these clubs. He also has a presidential ambition, of course. That's also part of the screenplay. At least there's a rumors going around about it. So it's really good to include stuff like that in the screenplay. Everything can work in the story. Oh, she's kidding about you can be the best you can be, because she knows that he wants to be something extremely special. So he's like obsessed with being special, obsessed with getting into the clubs. This obsession that drives him. Now he tells her that he is special, and she should be supportive of him, or at least he has a chance of getting into these clubs, and then he can take her on gatherings. So now we see some extra motivation that he wants to be. This is like a king. He wants to be a king in the clubs and get some status from there. And also later in the movie, he talks about meeting women, having friends, owning a company, being successful. It all follows this storyline. In a movie, there's also only one storyline. So, for example, in 10 Cloverfield Lane, the storyline is capture. So every scene, every line of dialogue is capture, being captured. Every single line of dialogue is about being captured in some way. And in this movie, everything is about being part of the social life and being obsessed with the social life. Some models, parties, pretty looking chicks, cool dudes, dudes that are trained, dudes that are winners, rich people. So everything about is prestige, but prestige for a group, prestige for being in a group, cute girlfriends like Erica, stuff like that. So every single line is about prestige. And if you understand that, then you will see that's the theme. And when you have a theme in the movie, you have a movie. If you don't have a theme in the movie or a message to send with the movie, then it's not a movie, then it's crap. See, again, what would you do for me? We're dating. Again, social, social, social. Every single line, social, being part of the groups. Because that's, if the movie is about being part of groups, then they can only talk about that. And they only talk about that. Because that's the plot, right? She's breaking up with him, again being part of something, right? And she's breaking up with him is again a motivation for him to create Facebook. He will walk over to her later on when Facebook becomes a bit big to win her back again by bragging about him being, this is his own final club, right? The Facebook. So now he comes up to her and thinks that he's good enough now for her to really beg him to come back into her life. But she just says no because she offended her. So she doesn't like his personality, but he thinks that just being successful is enough to win her back. And he has a hard time apologizing, hard time getting down in status to apologize. But he just wants to be part of the group, but he has only one way of doing that. That's being himself and working hard at it. Says you slept with a door guy. And sleeping with guys, sleeping with women is also part of the plot later on, because with Facebook, one of the functioning is that you can see if people are single or dating. So that's a huge part of Facebook, and it's a huge part of this movie, who's dating who, and can I see who's dating who, and why is it important, and stuff like that. Again, the logic is, and it's repeated again and again in the movie, that you get into the final club, you get status, and status brings you chicks. So, but for Mark, he's also, for example, at one point with Sean Parker, one of the co-founders of Napster, Sean Parker is the only one who takes him to clubs. So he always takes Mark to clubs, and still, even there, Mark feels like an outsider, but he feels like Sean Parker is inviting him into the final clubs that he has. So John Parker is the man of these clubs. He knows all the people in the clubs. He dates supermodel, and Mark can see him there. So every time Mark talks to him, he feels like he's part of this group. Like he says to Erica, I will take you to these clubs and you can meet people. This is exactly what Sean Parker does to Mark. He takes him to the clubs and lets Mark meet people. At one club, Mark even looks at the stripper in a club, because again, this is always the connection, right? You go to the clubs, you meet women, or you become you get higher status and you meet the right woman, the woman you want to meet. And this is also, for Sean Parker, this is also a well-functioning motivation to get into Facebook and get 7% of Facebook, so become extremely rich. He knows that Mark is a genius, and he knows that he needs to do he needs to read Mark's motivations and then fulfill them. So taking him to the club, and why is that a great motivation for Mark? again, we see that Mark says it directly, but we also see it in the movie, because everything cannot just be what they say. It also has to be how they illustrate and create that character by showing that character in a character trait. And when Mark is invited by the two rowers into one of the final clubs, he's only invited into the foyer, so he's waiting where the bicycles are, waiting in the hallway, and they tell him that he cannot go any further. So when they invite him into the club, they're only inviting him so far, and they just give him a tiny bit of taste of the club, like, here Mark, you can get so far but not further, but we are already in the club. Where Sean Parker, he knows what Mark's motivations are, and he invites him all the way into the club. So Mark gets all the way into the club, and suddenly Sean Parker is the great character for Mark, right? As Mark said, he will be for Erica. I will invite you into the clubs and you will meet new people. This is what Sean Parker is for him. Like, this guy that he looks up to, this guy that he kind of wants to hang out with, and will take him to extra heights. He doesn't understand that she's breaking up. Now he's apologizing, but kind of apologize, okay. Again, so amazing dialogue. I apologize, okay. He's apologizing, but he's kind of can't really apologize. Even this, right? Okay, then wait. I apologize, okay. It's such an amazing line of dialogue, because we don't just see him apologize, we see every single personality trait here shine through, because he can't apologize fully. That's not his last word, I apologize. That's okay. So kind of, he's trying to be a person, and only because he's forced into being a person. I have to go study. You don't have to study. Why? Dating you is like dating a stairmaster. I have to go study. You don't have to study. He repeats himself again, because you go to be you. So now she sees that he doesn't really respect her intellectually, and for us as a viewer, it's not really. I mean, you can see Mark as an asshole, but in reality, he's not really an asshole in this movie. He's just kind of a proactive guy who is successful because he's striving for success and creating a ton of value for people around him. He's really making a lot of people rich, a lot of people really, really happy, and giving people a much better social life. So in reality, he's not really an asshole, just an entrepreneur that creates a ton of happiness in society and deserves everything he has coming to him. But at the same time, he also has bad sides to him that, again, will lead him to some bad parts of his life too. And he's saying that she goes to be you, so now she knows he doesn't respect her intellectually, which again in the movie is made to be kind of a dig at her from him, but we are supposed to feel that he is an asshole. In reality, he's not an asshole. Just what needs to be understood here is that he is extremely clever. So for him, be you is like kindergarten. If you saw an adult person go to kindergarten, then you probably think, wait, this is kind of beneath me. I feel like I'm better than him. And this is how it is for Mark. This is what you need to understand, that for him, this is not an offensive statement. It's just the reality of the situation, that there's different levels of intellect between people, which is correct, but it can be very, very offensive. It's like telling a person that they are fat if they are fat. Okay, maybe it's correct that they weigh much more than the average person, but you still don't say it directly unless you're autistic. I don't have a robot, so we are even. And now he feels like he needs to tell her that she offended him, right? With the robot statement. But in actuality, she didn't mean to offend him. So they both kind of just misunderstand each other. I think we should just be friends. Facebook friends, right? Friends? I don't want friends. Again, I don't want friends. Again, Facebook. at again always social, everything about social standing in society. Every single line in this movie about social standing in society. That's how we write a movie. Every single line is the same, but it's new, and it's from different. It's viewing the same thing from different angles. Like, for example, if I write a philosophy book about greed, then I can say greed is wanting more money, but I have different ways, greed can be wanting something else, but I have a different way to describe greed. So there's a lot of different ways you can describe greed so that the readers will understand what greed is fully. Not just the definition of greed, but but everything about it. That's what a movie does. It describes a problem. So with a view, you want the theme because you want the viewer to understand something about society, about how something works. With this script, it's about understanding how social standings works, how the status works in the society, and every single line is about that, but it's from new directions, and that's why the movie is exciting. That's why a movie about one single topic can be that long and still be exciting, because there's a million different ways to view one single thing. So even though it's one thing, it's still a full movie, and it's still a full concept with a plot. She was just being polite. She doesn't want to be friends with him. And now he kind of says that. He kind of ignores that she's breaking up with him. He doesn't really understand that. You're going to be a very successful computer person. Again, Sorkin, of course, maybe he's not a computer expert. He has a ton of help writing the script. A lot of experts are helping him write everything about the script. Of course, he knows that computer person is extremely like offensive. Not extremely offensive, but kind of offensive term. But it's also offensive to Erica because now she doesn't really understand computers. But maybe it's not that offensive because she's a people person and he's a computer person, Mark. And that's what the conflict is all about, right? And this is also extremely important line. But you're going through life thinking that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that won't be true. It'd be because you're an asshole. And this line is, with movies, you all often have a question at the beginning, right? A question you want answered. So, for example, what is greed? If that's the question of the beginning of the movie, you have a scene asking about that, or some storyline asking directly about greed. What is greed? And then at the end, you have an answer to that question. A movie is a moral tale, right? For example, if you tell your kid about greed, then you tell him a short story, maybe with animals or some gods or something else, about some prototypes or some people or some story from somewhere about where they were greedy and something went wrong, and then they learn something. So movies are conceptual understanding of things to tell the story about something. It's storytelling. It's like telling a person how to hunt an animal, right? You can say, oh, you make a bow like this and you hunt like this, and then you're successful and you can bring meat back to our group so we can eat the meat. Here you're just telling the people around you about moral matters, and this is the same thing. You tell them about how to live in the society they're in and how to be a successful individual and produce goods to the society. That's what movie writing is all about. You are telling the people how to live their life, how to be a social human being, and it's extremely complicated to be a human being. It's not like being a bird or being a pig or being a cow. You cannot just be what you are. There's a lot of, it's just on a higher level playing field, right? Because you have words too, so you convey a lot of these stuff. With birds, you kind of can convey how to sing a song to attract mates, or the mother can do something and then the small bird can learn from the mother. For example, how to hunt or how to be social. But with human beings, there's an extra layer with language and words, so you can convey with words how it is to be a human being and what you need to do. That's why you have this hero journey tale with Mark exploring something and also having a lot of difficulty and then failing but also succeeding. so we can learn from him and become better human beings. That's what movies are all about. We see them and we see difficulties, when see problems when you do something wrong, and we see success when you do something right, and then we learn from it, and then we can tell the tales to other people. Hey, don't do this and don't do that, and then you will become a great human being in the society, and you will produce to the society. So that's all it is about. And if that's not what your script is about, then you probably need to look it over one more time or write another script. So yeah, that's why I think that these first pages of the social network, Facebook, are really great. They convey a ton of information. They are exciting, they're fast-paced. There are a lot of small nuggets of factual things in them, but they're also creating the full storyline about Finals Club, about being intelligent, about fitting in, about having a girlfriend, not having a girlfriend. Mark's always, he actually looks a lot about on girls in this movie, and at the end he even asks a girl out, who then tells him that you're not an asshole, just trying so hard to be one. Where here Erica tells him he is an asshole, but in reality he just tries to be one because he wants something else from life. So that's what he tries to be, an asshole. That's a lot of everything here is built up. It's explained in the movie. How they act, everything they says here is brought up again. So this is an extremely good setup and nearly perfect screenwriting. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.